Hello everyone, Ben here. Welcome back to World Touring Car action at Monza. We've got a 15-minute ranked race coming up and we are starting in 9th place in the DHL liveried Cupra. And we get a fantastic start away from the line, already making up a couple of places there. We've got a car on the right hand side, but we've got better acceleration down the straight. We're going to just try now and stick as best we can to the racing line, but actually we get better on the brakes than the car ahead. So we're going to have a little look down the inside. We do make contact, but it's nothing too severe. We pick up a few incident points for that, but actually against all the odds it looks like a very clean run through the first chicane here at Monza for pretty much the whole grid, certainly the grid around us on track. So that is a really big win. Going into that first corner I really didn't know quite what to expect, but fair play to everybody for being nice and sensible through that corner. We're now up into 7th place and we're coming up onto the back of the 2020 Renault driven by Nemeth just ahead of us, and we're going to try and stick close to him as we go through the Lesmos for the first time here at Monza, just trying to kind of get the car turned in. You got to get off the accelerator a little bit to get the car to sort of oversteer into the corner. Same again here as Nemeth up ahead runs slightly wide. He manages to just keep it out the gravel I think, but he is slow down the back straight here, so we're going to have a little bit of a chance to get alongside him and perhaps attack into Ascari, the left right-hander at the end of this straight. We're fully alongside now. We're going to get on the brakes and just try and hold it around the outside. It gives us a really tight line into the apex. We give Nemeth on our outside plenty of space. We're going to have to tuck in behind him as we now try and get a decent line onto the straight up ahead. But that's really slowed us down and it's given the car Hennig behind us a chance to get alongside us. So not only have we not made up a place, we're actually now defending a place, and in fact we've pretty much lost it now unless we're going to go side by side through the Parabolica, which we're not going to do. We're going to tuck in behind and try and get a better run out onto the start finish straight. So unfortunately there, despite having a really good start, we could have gone up into 6th place, but we're now down into 8th and in fact under pressure again from the driver behind. So we're going to have to just try and stick in the slipstream here of Hennig up ahead of us and try and measure our braking here so as to not give up another place. I've got half an eye in my wing mirror, half an eye up ahead, and we're just able now to kind of consolidate the place. 2 cars up ahead going side by side on the exit of the first chicane, so they're really close together now, coming along the straight and through the right hander here, and it's going to be surely the DHL livery Cupra up ahead of us having a go into the next chicane. We're just going to keep a watching brief here and try and not get involved in any accidents that might unfold. And he is, look at that, he's making a move down the left hand side. Nemeth gives him plenty of space. We're going to try and follow him around, but we can't. We get shut off, and actually the car behind us makes a move on us. So it's really tight racing here. All clean and fair so far though, no contact remarkably, given how difficult some of these corners are at the best of times. But we're essentially now in formation order between the Cupra, the Renault, the Cupra and the Renault, going around through the Lesmos and onto the back straight once again. We've got a little bit of breathing space now to Sillar, who's the car behind us, 7/10 back, and then we've got 7/10 up the road, Nemeth. So we can essentially pick our braking spot as we wanted through Ascari this time round and just concentrate on getting a little bit of rhythm. We do go slightly deep though. That's not the best line through that corner, and essentially, as with pretty much all of the corners at Monza, they're really high stakes. So if you got there, as you saw, if you get it slightly wrong into Ascari, that basically compromises you all the way through and then all the way down the straight that then follows. I mean, Monza, as I'm sure most of you know, is essentially a collection of straights with chicanes or very tight corners leading into them. And so any error that you make through the corners stays with you all the way down the straight. You lose so much time. So the corners essentially dare you to brake as late as you can to get a really good tight turn in. But really what matters most is your exit to the corner. So it's always better to err on the side of getting a good exit. But up ahead, look at that. We've got Nemeth trying to fight back now against the Cupra, and they're going to make contact, and they have. And just about both cars hold it together, but we end up going in slightly deep because we get a little bit carried away having seen that accident up ahead. But it's given us 7th place back. We've got now the other Renault on our left hand side. We're basically going side by side here through the long right hander. We've got the pace though to kind of hold position here just about, but he is going to be attacking us into the next chicane. I know that already. He's making it very clear that he's going to come alongside us. We're going to just about spot our braking right to keep the place and look to get a better exit than Hennig up ahead and try and get back on his rear wing and get up into 6th place. It's very much looking now as we kind of come into the sort of midpoint of this race, like the top 5 drivers are going to be beyond us, but the top 6 place finish is very much up for grabs. There's 3 or 4 of us now, 3 of us essentially vying for 6th place. The car behind in 10th at the minute is just a little bit far back. So we're going to now look to the inside again, coming into Ascari, but we think better of it. The experience on the first lap where we essentially lost time through Ascari made us think better of it. We get a little nudge from behind as we were perhaps slower through Ascari than Silla was expecting. But at least this time we've managed to maintain the gap to the car ahead in 4/10. It's going to give us a good run into the Parabolica. If we can just tuck him behind through the final corner of the lap, then we should be well positioned to make a move into the first chicane of the following lap. Both myself and Silla behind, running slightly wide through Parabolica, but we managed to get good traction out of the corner, and we are in the slipstream of the car ahead as we come across the finish line to start the next lap. It's going to be a question of, do we dare get on the brakes late as a car comes out of the pit lane? So clearly there's been some sort of incident behind us at some stage, but we both basically get the braking done at the same time, so it's as you were going into the chicane coming out. In fact, if anything, Hennig gets a slightly better run out of the corner than we do. So far so good. We've managed to make some places up off the start. I've got to say, coming into the race, I wasn't that confident of our pace. I struggled in the practice session, and so if we flip on now to the end of that lap, it wasn't too big a surprise to see Hennig pulling away from us and actually us coming under pressure from behind. Coming into the Parabolica here, Silla's going to make a move down our inside. We have to just give him the room there, and actually what I'm going to try and do is cut back underneath him and get a better run out of the corner if he runs in deep. It's going to mean we're side by side as we come down the start finish straight, but we of course will have the inside line for the chicane up ahead if we're able to maintain pace with the Renault on our outside, but it looks as if we're not. I did decrease the wing angle slightly coming into the race, but that doesn't seem to have given us the pace we need to compete with the Renault as we now come down into the braking zone of the first chicane. There's a yellow flag out. I'm not quite sure where the incident is there. It doesn't look to be anything up ahead of us, but then on the left hand side you'll see the other Renault of Nemeth comes steaming past, and he's rejoined ahead of both ourselves and Silla. So let's just take a little look back to see what has gone on there as to how he's managed to jump ahead of us. So we're now looking at Nemeth. Look at the battle going on behind, weaving into the braking zone. That's only ever going to end in disaster. The car trying to overtake Nemeth comes off the worst, but he storms straight through the runoff area and has rejoined ahead of us. And actually, he's a little bit naughty because he doesn't give those places back straight away. And look at that, he very nearly, in trying to defend that place from Silla up ahead, takes both of them out. He eventually gets out of it on the back straight, but that has put us right on the back of Silla again. To be honest with you, right now, genuinely, I was in two minds as to whether to try and make a move here, because it was just unfair that Silla came under that sort of blocking from Nemeth, who shouldn't have been in that position. So I do take the decision to get out of the throttle early coming into Ascari and essentially reset the battle. Whether that was the right thing or not to do, I don't know, but it felt like at the time it would have just been unfair to try and take advantage of that move. So we flip forward now to the final few minutes of the race. We've essentially been able to maintain the gap to the car ahead and behind, and as we come into Ascari again, this time it's Silla who gets it wrong into there. It's going to give us a chance on the exit. We try and just cut through a bit tighter into the exit of Ascari. We do get a cutting penalty of 1 incident point. It gives us a slightly better exit, but unfortunately again we're just not able to make it capitalise on the straights. We have a real top speed deficit to Silla in the Renault. So unfortunately, despite there being a sort of sniff of an opportunity, we weren't able to make it stick head into the Parabolica. I'm hoping we're going to get a decent run out of this corner, get into the slipstream, and he can pull us towards him going into the start of the next lap. We're 4/10 behind as we come across the start finish line, and we're closing gradually, but it isn't looking like it's going to be enough. And so I've got to take a decision here as to whether I'm going to gamble. I decide ultimately not to, because if I do, if I get out of control into that braking zone, then actually all of the work we've done into the race so far will be, lost. And the cars behind aren't that far behind that we wouldn't then lose positions. Fast forward then, and ultimately Silla's been able to build a bit of a gap, and it's looking like we're going to come home in 8th place. But look at that, on the exit of Ascari we make a mistake, and just as I was saying earlier in the race, these are high stakes corners, and that error is going to slow us down considerably, and it's actually put the car behind us right onto our tail. And in fact, he's got enough momentum coming down now into Parabolica to get around our outside. We try and hold it, but he's going to do the switchback move on us, and he's going to have better traction coming out onto the start finish straight as we come now onto the final lap. There's not going to be another lap after the next one, so we're now in 9th place. We've lost that spot, having had a couple of second gap, looking really secure in 8th place. Now we're going to have to fight for it. He runs very defensive. We're going to pull to the outside. He comes down, gives us some space, but he does sort of weave slightly in the braking zone, but nothing really unfair in that. We come now through the chicane. We get an okay run through there, but actually we haven't been able to close in too much. At least we're kind of maintaining in his slipstream as we come round this final lap. And so hopefully there'll be other opportunities if we can keep the pressure on. The car behind us is a good 4 seconds to the car behind, so we've got a little bit of wiggle room to take a few risks if we feel bold enough on the brakes. We come now into the second chicane of the lap. There's not really a chance to go past here unless you're very much quicker than the car ahead, so I'm not expecting to make the move here or through the Lesmos. It's really going to be about lining ourselves up for Scari and possibly into Parabolica at the end of the lap. We take a tighter line than the car ahead, but we actually get slightly poorer drive out of the first Lesmo. We come into the second Lesmo now. He's quite heavy on the brakes there, and so there might be a bit of a chance coming out to close in down the long back straight. We are just about still within the slipstream. It's at 6/10. It's a little bit far back, to be honest, if we're going to make a move into Ascari. We are now closing, though, as we come down the back straight. He's going to get on the brakes at just about the 100-metre board. We do the same, but look at that. He's gone in too hot. He's slightly out of shape. He just about holds it. We're going to, again, try and cut narrowly through the exit of Ascari. We pick up another incident point, and look at that. We actually have a slowdown penalty as well. So we've got to be careful here. We have to spend that slowdown penalty before the end of the lap. Otherwise, we're going to get a penalty at the end of the race, and I don't want that. It's only a couple of tenths, but it does mean we have to be quite careful about going into Parabolica and trying to lose that penalty. We do manage to do that, but it has compromised us slightly as we run through the corner. We're going to be right underneath the rear wing of the car ahead as we come around the final corner for the final time onto the start finish straight. We're just about a tenth and a half behind. We're closing, but it's not going to be enough as we come across the start finish line, and that is the race over. And on track we finish in 9th place. However, when you see the final classifications, you'll see that Silla himself carried a penalty to the end of the race, and he actually got whacked with a hefty time penalty there at the end. And so on in the final classifications, despite finishing on track in 9th, we come home in 8th. And overall then, I think we've got to be pretty happy with that. I hope you've enjoyed this race. If you have, leave a like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss future races that we've got coming up, and I'll see you next time.